Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to Explain It to Me for Wandavision. I'm not going to waste any time. I'm just going to bring everyone in. So this is the show where we have guests on to explain stuff to us because Star Wars is kind of our only real area of expertise. So we have our friend Ashton with us again to explain WandaVision to us and the MCU, and he just knows a whole lot more about Marvel Comics than we do. So welcome
Hey,
again, Ashton.
Thank you.
So I wanted to kick things off with just some general impressions of the episode, and then we're going to go into the actual explanation part where we ask Ashton questions. If you guys have questions that you want to definitely get answered, you can send them in through streamlabs.com/AlexDamonLive, kind of like we do when we break down The Mandalorian. But we're going to have a time where we go through the chat and try to answer questions, and we're going to try to keep an eye on the chat throughout the whole thing. So that's how today's going to go. But what did everyone think of episode 3 of WandaVision?
I liked it a lot. We're starting to get more into some familiar territory, I think. And yeah, things are starting to get really interesting.
Yeah, I thought that it was really good. I think the show's actually moving a little bit faster than I expected it to, which is nice to see because it means we'll get to actually have more story, things actually happening.
Yeah, we're already kind of diving into the outside world, the real world. I don't know what to call it because we still don't know exactly what's going on with Wanda, but we did get to see something on the outside. Let's run through like a summary of the episode. So spoilers, if you haven't seen it, I think you would know that by now. But if anything jumps out at you guys, feel free to stop me. But basically, we jump into Wanda's pregnant like she was at the end of last episode, but the baby's coming very quickly. Vision notices some weird stuff like Herb cutting through the concrete wall that divides their yards. So he notices that, brings it up to Wanda, and then she kind of like glitches him out of that. We got the Hydra, was it Hydra Soak or Hydra Soap?
Yeah, Hydra Soak.
The bubble bath commercial.
Yeah. So that was the commercial of the week. Geraldine comes over to help deliver the babies because they've come insanely fast, which she has twins. Wanda remembers that she was a twin. We get the first Pietro mentioned since Age of Ultron, which Geraldine also brings up how he died. And then Herb and Agnes outside almost try to tell us something, but tell Vision, and he goes back in, and Wanda has like thrown Geraldine out of this reality. So that's what happened.
Also, Vision got to run around with super speed and like piggyback the Doctor back and forth. And the Doctor seemed to kind of just be like, all right, that happened.
Yeah, we were moving awfully fast.
Yeah.
That could play into things. Because it seems like the residents of Westview, they know something's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So at least some of them. Agnes, I feel like, definitely knows Herb. He seems to come in and out. But I wonder if like the Doctor knows who or what Vision is and like just kind of downplayed his superpowers. Like, wow, it was almost like we were flying.
Was Westview, was that the name on the sign at the end when we see where Geraldine got kicked out?
Yeah, I actually did. I figured there might be something fun to look at, but I did pull that out in case we wanted to take a closer look. The slogan for the neighborhood says home. It's where you make it. So I guess that like the big question is still kind of what's going on. What do we think is happening with Westview?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of have like some theories and as far as, what I think is going on.
That's why you're here.
I kind of feel like maybe there's a couple different ways that it can go. One thing that I think is important is the fact that when Geraldine got ejected from Westview, she still looked like she did when she was inside Westview.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not illusions. Like, Wanda's actually changing the reality of this area, or whoever's causing it, presumably Wanda. So that's kind of a big thing. And then Agnes and her seeming to be kind of aware that they're being manipulated. And then the doctor also, to an extent, because he was saying, like, it's hard to get away from a small town. Like, he seemed to be implying that he knew that he couldn't leave.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, he said like it was hard to escape or something.
Yeah.
He was supposed to go on vacation, and he's like very sitcom-y, but he's like, oh, of course, my car decides to go kaput. So maybe it's like anytime someone tries to leave, the reality of it just will not let them. It's kind of like the island on Lost.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost impossible to leave this place. Something is going to stop you. So yeah, that's an interesting point, though, that I wonder if Geraldine like went in and was wearing that as like a disguise almost. So we had the beekeeper guy at the end of the previous episode, and Geraldine somehow made it in. So maybe it's like Sword is trying to find ways to get into this reality, and maybe they like, it looks like Westview might be a real place. So they were like, oh right, maybe we can enter through the sewer and come up through the bottom. But she was still able to stop that too.
I mean, I think that it probably wasn't a disguise, because she was like, she fit in the previous episodes too, you know? So unless she was like prepared for different decades, you know, with different disguises.
True. Yeah, that's a good point.
It gave me big like Cabin in the Woods vibes towards the end there, when we see her kind of like shoot out, and we see that there's kind of like this dome protecting whatever this town is, and there's like seemingly a large military presence or task force there. I'm wondering if they knew she was in there, or if they're like, what is happening? This has never happened before. Interesting. And like, if she's part of Sword, like, why would she like wear a necklace with the symbol on it that might be recognized? Like, I wonder if if she doesn't have any, if she doesn't have any control over like her appearance in this place that Wanda may have created.
My assumption at this point is that basically, like, anybody that enters that realm, like this town, gets warped into what Wanda wants them to be, basically, to an extent. And maybe some of them are conscious to a point of what's going on, maybe only some of the time even. Like, maybe the doctor really did think that he was about to go on vacation to Bermuda, you know, but then like later on, after Wanda has like that sort of shaky moment and people like kind of are seeing past it a little bit, he's like, oh, I'm not going to be able to leave, you know, and then maybe in an hour he's going to forget about it or something. But the necklace thing, I kind of think might be if she was wearing like a badge or something when she entered, maybe that's what it got turned into by Wanda.
Yeah.
Something like that, maybe.
Yeah, so I wonder if the longer you're there, maybe the more aware you become that something is messed up and wrong, because Geraldine is supposed to be new. Was she in the first episode? Because it feels she came in.
She was in the second one.
Right.
Yeah, I know she was in the second one. I don't remember the first one.
She was in the second for sure. And she was like, I don't remember like who I am or how I got here, really. She seemed really confused.
Well, and that almost made me think like maybe she was like, when I watched that, like this, I watched that episode a second time. And when I did, her line there almost seemed like she was waiting to see if Wanda told her a name. And then when Wanda didn't know the name, then she like made one up. So like maybe she was just kind of like not wanting to like blow her cover and alert Wanda that she's like an intruder, basically.
But
that's kind of another possibility.
Yeah, I wonder if like Wanda even bringing up the fact that she had a brother, maybe that was a cue for her to be like, oh, we're having a breakthrough here. Maybe I can talk some sense into her, and then it backfired.
Yeah.
To me, I guess I thought it was like, okay, Wanda's remembering her past, her brother, her like what actually happened, and then that triggered Geraldine to be like, oh yeah, like I'm remembering things from my past as well, real things.
Yeah.
So kind of like a snowball, that if Wanda's losing control, then maybe everyone starts to break through the facade.
And that would explain when Vision's out and then the neighbors are like kind of hinting at like something's wrong, we're trapped here, but then they're like, then they just go back to being neighbors.
But
well,
then go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say I still kind of think that Agnes is like not who she seemed like. I think that she's an intruder as well, but for whatever reason she's able to keep her like her own mind, basically. Like she's not being dominated by the reality warping. She's just kind of going along with it to either observe or try to, you know, fix things, or maybe she's a bad guy and she's trying to keep it going. I don't know.
Well, I'm starting to wonder if Wanda is like the villain of the show, because I mean she definitely seemed very sinister at the end, and I think like Herb and Agnes seem kind of afraid. They don't know if they can trust Vision. Agnes was like, Herb, don't say anything. So like I'm wondering if they kind of know what's going on, but they're too afraid to say anything about it.
Well, and like maybe they know that if anything crosses the line too much, then it's just going to get like rewound by Wanda. And so they didn't want to like cross the line too much with their conversation with Vision, because if they did, it would just get erased.
Sure.
So I did some Wikipedia-ing earlier, and I was looking at the House of M and the fact that in the comics, Wanda basically like creates this alternate universe, something like that, or like a timeline where it's basically just like everything is great and everyone is happy.
Yeah, there have been some timelines like that. I can't remember if that's the one where she ends up like magically having her twins, but that's a thing from the comics as well.
Well, we haven't talked about the twins yet.
Yeah.
So I know that they are comic characters, but that is literally all that I know about them.
Yeah. So in the comics, they're also named Tommy and Billy, and they end up having superpowers, unsurprisingly, and have like the superhero names of Wiccan and Speed. And so one of them ends up having like Quicksilver type powers, and one of them ends up being sort of like Scarlet Witch, kind of, except with some differences.
Are they Vision's kids?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But like Wanda uses a spell to actually have kids with Vision, since he's an android.
So they're magical kids.
But also, even like complicating things more, they're actually generated from shards of the soul of Mephisto.
Sure.
You know, as you do. Because Mephisto had a fight with Franklin Richards, who's basically God. And
God's name is Franklin Richards?
No, Reed Richard and Sue Storm's kid is named Franklin Richards, but he has like omnipotent powers, basically.
Okay.
But he's a kid, and so it's weird. Future version of Franklin Richards had Galactus as a herald for a while. Like that's
okay.
How big of a big deal he is. It's weird. But anyway, he like messed up Mephisto big time, and his 2 of his soul shards were made into Billy and Tommy. And then later Mephisto like abducts them and tries to reabsorb them, and he does, but then Wanda ends up messing with Mephisto, and then they get reincarnated into kids, and then they actually get to grow up and be characters at that point. Like,
okay,
so
and because I'll use Darth 47 as a reason to refresh my memory. Remind me who Mephisto is. He's kind of like Satan.
Mephisto is like a devil. He's sort of like Satan, but he's not really like the head devil. He's just one of the big ones in Marvel Comics.
Okay.
So yeah, that's who Mephisto is, and he's often involved with the magic characters as kind of a villain, and sometimes someone that they deal with on purpose. It varies.
Do you think that a character like that will pop up in this show?
Maybe. I mean, it's a lot of people speculate that maybe Ralph is Mephisto, which is like it's kind of a goofy theory, but also like we've had a lot of weird comments about Ralph. Like either he is someone like strange like Mephisto, or he just doesn't exist and Agnes is just making stuff up.
I mean,
apparently he looks better in the dark.
I love that they still had a Ralph joke. That was like Catherine Hahn's only scene, and she still crushed it. I always love that when something starts as a joke and then turns into something actually serious. And they were like, we were just trying to keep it on your mind, but like it's not all that funny anymore.
Yeah. So there is a chance that Mephisto might be involved in this show, and that might end up being a plot point with Tommy and Billy, but I don't know, that might be a little bit too much for them to dive into with, just TV shows and movies and things. They don't have a billion comic books to, explain everything.
Yeah. And like the MCU, I mean, it's getting farther away from this, but it feels somewhat grounded in reality. Like, especially Iron Man kind of set that standard. And it's getting more and more outlandish, but
yeah, especially since Doctor Strange, they've like been adding more and more of the just straight up like this is magic, like because even with Thor, they didn't really fully go in the direction of it like being magic. It was kind of sci-fi and like alien tech, and they were like, yeah, they are the Asgardians and they're gods, quote unquote, but all their stuff is really just like super advanced technology. Kind of was the feel of the movie, but then now that we've gotten to Doctor Strange, it kind of changes things, the way that you look at things a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, they're just like making it weirder and weirder and weirder, but just a little bit at a time, so we don't really notice. It's going to be, I think it'll be funny, like if we get to the end of Phase 4 and we look back at Iron Man and like, man, remember how normal things were?
Yeah, I mean, you can see it with the costumes too.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it, back when the first Iron Man came out, that was around the same time we had like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and the X-Men movies, where they were just wearing like black leather instead of their colorful costumes and everything. There was still definitely a worry that if they did things too crazy, that it wouldn't catch the mainstream audience and it would, drive people away. So they weren't willing to take big risks. Whereas now it's already such an established thing, the MCU, that they can do some pretty goofy storylines and get away with it.
Yeah. Let's see. I had the question written down. What do you think Vision is? Because I think we speculated that he might be all in her head, or like this reality might be built around just him being back and her coping with her grief. But like, he definitely seems like he has free will that needs to be rewound.
Well, and especially now that we've seen that these aren't just illusions, because of, Geraldine being the same as she was in Westview after she got expelled. So, like, what happens if Vision somehow leaves the bubble? Does he stop existing because he's just a construct, that Wanda's created, or is he actually, an individual? So, I mean, we'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
I'm getting the vibe that he is a real individual somehow.
Yeah.
Like that he can affect things that, if he's just I don't know, her memory or something, then why did she have to rewind him? Like, why couldn't she have just designed him to, like in Westworld, if he ever sees anything that would shake his faith in what was happening around him, then he would just be like, doesn't look like anything to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. And then similarly, assuming that he is actually somehow being returned to life, like what are Billy and Tommy, because they were actually two people that have been generated completely from within this magical bubble that wouldn't exist otherwise. So
Yeah.
what does that mean for them? Like if the bubble collapses, do they stop existing or would they still be there?
Right.
I wonder if like somehow, because we talked about the possibility of what's her name?
Agnes.
No, the girl from Black Panther.
Shuri.
Shuri. We talked about the idea of Shuri maybe saving Vision, so to speak, downloading the program. Maybe he was resurrected somehow through that, and after that happens, Wanda is just like, you're coming with me, we're gonna live in this bubble now, because
could be
there's a lot of stuff going on, and she's just like, nope, we're not doing this again, you're coming with me, we're gonna go live in this bubble where we're happy and we can have kids and stuff.
Can Vision exist without the Mind Stone? I guess they were trying to.
That was something they were trying to figure out. Yeah, like they had speculated that he could, but they didn't know for sure until they removed it, and they didn't get the chance to do it. So,
I did notice. I can't remember if we talked about this last week, but the little magical cabinet had like the Mind Stone on it. I'm wondering if that's going to come into play at all. But like, it was destroyed in their reality, right? And then. Captain, I almost called Captain America. What's his face? Took all the Infinity Stones back.
Yeah, to their home dimension, I guess.
Yeah,
alternate timeline.
I wonder if they like tried to make a synthetic Mind Stone in order to like bring back Vision, and by doing that, it created this like alternate time, place thing where Wanda is.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, there were some people that were saying like that it seems almost like because Wanda's powers look kind of similar to the stuff that the Reality Stone did. And so this kind of looked like maybe what if she's using the Reality Stone, but that's in like another dimension now. So
yeah,
I like Stuart's comment.
I was just about to pull it up.
The old switcheroo.
Oh, I mean, maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just you mentioning the Reality Stone just made me think, oh, it's kind of cool that Wanda's powers are like red colored, and the Reality Stone is also red. And I meant to grab a comment from, I don't see it now, but Darth Mr. Meeseeks threw out the idea that did we just see Monica Rambeau get her superpowers by being zapped by?
Could be.
Which what are her powers? Because I don't know what they are either.
Yeah,
I actually am not sure. I would have to refresh my memory on that character. I haven't read much with her in it.
And it's Monica Rambeau. What was her mom's name from Captain Marvel?
Yeah, it's been a while since I saw that movie. I don't remember.
Someone will explain it to us in the comments.
Yeah,
I'm looking it up on Wikipedia. Energy absorption, generation, and manipulation, travel, speed.
Maria. And yeah, that's a 1-pointer, Corrupt Collector. I'm out of practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of like energy manipulation. She can convert her body into any form of energy within the electromagnetic spectrum and travel in energy form through the vacuum of space.
All right. Lucas Blanco says it's kind of like Captain Marvel powers.
Yeah.
She goes by Photon or Spectrum. Cool. Okay. Do we think we're going to see Quicksilver in this?
Maybe.
Like,
There's some
he'll get
people
a
that
little
were.
cameo?
I've seen a lot of speculation that he'll be in the next episode. We haven't seen hardly anything from the 80s episode in the trailers and things.
Mhm.
So the next episode's probably going to have might have some surprises in it, since we don't have hardly any idea what's going to be in that one.
Especially with her little breakthrough at the end, yeah.
Yeah. And I actually didn't really expect her to have the twins in this episode. I kind of thought that it was going to be the next episode. So who knows what'll happen.
I mean, you said that this was only how many episodes total?
9.
Oh, 9. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, they got a lot to explain.
Yeah, they're going to run out of decades eventually.
Yeah. I kind of wonder if we'll get an episode completely out of the town.
I think we might.
Like basically on the other side of the story, what's happening.
Well, at some point they're going to run out of decades, because we got 50s, 60s, 70s. We're on 70s, so 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. So that's 7 episodes. So we have 2 more that I bet, yeah, maybe there'll be one that's completely in actual reality, and then maybe one where like it's all twisted together. That could be cool and trippy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would be cool.
So let's see. I wanted to ask, what is Hydra Soak?
So
if anything.
I don't think it's anything. I think that it might be a nod at something from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because there was a thing in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where Agent Coulson was convinced that Hydra was using mind-controlling soap.
Okay.
And so he was like ranting about how he was making his own soap for like to avoid the mind control soap.
We should watch that. I've heard it got really good. We watched like half of the first season and then fell off of it.
Yeah. I am actually really excited. Someone mentioned something about Wiccan in the comments. I'm really excited to see if those characters end up, if they do like Young Avengers, because they were part of a team called Young Avengers. If that ends up becoming a thing, because that would be really, really cool to see.
So if they were born incredibly quickly, could we see them grow up quickly as well?
Yeah, like, could be.
Maybe they'll actually get to the Young Avengers like in the show to a degree.
Maybe.
They might be teenagers in the next episode.
Because we don't know, like, I mean, well, we know that as far as Wanda and Vision are concerned, things are basically like time is passing in a matter of days, because they were freaking out about the pregnancy being like, a day or whatever. But I mean, we don't know that it's going to stay that way. Like, there might be a point where they have an episode that actually takes 10 years as far as people are concerned that are inside the bubble. Who knows?
That would be weird if the whole illusion fell away at the end and they had like aged 30 years over the course of 2 days.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know.
I'm still curious as to like what other characters that were kind of involved in her story in the comics could pop up in this show or another show. Like, I was reading that Dr. Doom was kind of a part of this whole story in the comics about her like creating this other world.
Yeah, so Dr. Doom has a couple of tie-ins with Scarlet Witch in the comics. At one point, they were supposed to get married. I can't remember if they ever actually did get married, but it was at a point when she had kind of like amnesia for a while. And also in the comics, she was married to Vision, and then they split up. And then it's been like a kind of tumultuous thing ever since then, where they like she tried to rejoin the Avengers at one point, and Vision basically like refused and wouldn't let her join the team. Like, they've had a lot of like fights since then personally. Not like literal fights, but so yeah, I mean, she's had like romances in the comics with everybody because comic books are like that. But Vision is the main one that she had a romance with, and Dr. Doom was another one that was kind of a big deal. But I don't think that we'll end up seeing Doctor Doom involved in this because it's so early since the actual since they got the rights to that character. That would be really fast for them to turn around and start using that character this quickly. But then again, from what we've seen in the Loki trailer, it looks like that is involving some Fantastic Four like villain groups. So
yeah. Brian had a good comment about the commercial.
And so did Jake. But yeah,
it also had a thing where it was talking about release your find the goddess within, which is sort of pointing to the seeming retcon that they've made that Hydra just awoke powers in Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. They didn't create powers.
So that was my kind of wild theory, is that it was, so people are guessing that maybe the two actors that are in all the commercials are her parents. And so maybe they literally like soaked her mom in like some sort of weird, I mean, come on,
maybe
awaken superpowers all the time.
I think the
acid superhero.
I think the products are probably just made up, because also the watch was in one of them, and I doubt that like Strucker had was super into watches, but who knows?
No, I don't mean that like literally Hydra soak is what they called it, but maybe that had something to do with her origin.
Yeah.
Of maybe they dunked her in a tank of superpower juice. And it awoke the goddess within.
Could be.
That's what happened to the Joker.
Right.
His goddess was awoken by a vat of acid.
Well, and because in Age of Ultron, they talked about how they had done the same experiments on a bunch of people, and none of it hadn't worked on anyone else except for Wanda and Pietro. So, like, it seems like it was probably actually just awakening powers in them, rather than giving them powers. Because there was like something special about them that made them actually survive the experiments.
I imagine they'd want to keep that all kind of flexible, because they weren't, at the time, they weren't allowed to say mutants.
Yeah.
So they called them miracles. But now that they have the X-Men back in their hand, they could just switch it over to be like, oh no, they were genetically capable of having powers awakened. So
they could, but then again, like I was saying last week, that in the comics, it's turned out recently that Wanda and Pietro aren't actually mutants anyway. So.
Oh, that's right.
they were for a long time, and then they changed that. So
they changed it from them being mutants to them being what?
Basically science experiments. Like there's this character called the High Evolutionary that did a bunch of experiments on them, apparently.
So I
knocked it out of the park with Scarlet Witch. She's
yeah.
So I took this picture. I wanted to bring it back up. Huh?
I said enhance.
Yeah. It's still kind of hard to read, but I didn't know if there was anything people in the comments caught, or Ashton, if you caught anything other than the tagline, "Home, it's where you make it." But I don't know. There still could have been some Easter eggs on there if anyone caught anything.
Yeah, I didn't notice anything in particular. The main thing that I was noticing there was just seeing like the area around the town, because that kind of gives us a clue as to where it is, because as far as we know, it could have been on the North Pole or something, like, who knows, but that appears to be like North America or somewhere. I don't know.
And it appears to be an actual neighborhood.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like she could have been in the middle of the desert, creating this reality, but no, it does seem like maybe she has taken over a neighborhood and is trying to make, like, I think we talked about this last week, but it seems like she is trying to base all of her ideals, or she's trying to make the idealistic family based off of these TV shows and stuff.
Yeah. And I get the feeling that not everyone in the town is aware of what's going on. Because, like, Dottie, for instance, was kind of mean to her. And I would think that if she was, like, worried about upsetting the God Queen of Westview, that she probably wouldn't be that mean to Wanda,
Well, maybe Dottie's like, I'm the God Queen of Westview.
Yeah, maybe.
She's got a video on her. Was the best joke in the episode when the lights went out and Phil was like, oh my God.
These earrings make me look fat.
Phil might be my favorite recurring character so far. Just getting walked all over every time.
Yeah.
He's been fired. He's lost his grandmother's piano, and he's married to Dottie.
Yeah. And he does have a great mustache.
He really does.
Yeah. I'm still just like, I'm so curious to see if this is all Wanda's doing, or if Wanda is also like a prisoner, so to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that maybe someone like Mephisto or somebody is, keeping her in some like magic, trance, or made her lose her mind and, want to do this. Because, like, the voice over the radio was asking who did this to you. So clearly SHIELD, or whoever that, I'm assuming that Jimmy Woo is still with SHIELD. SHIELD seems to be under the impression that, she's being influenced by someone, or somebody did something to her to make her cast this spell.
Or maybe they're just hoping for the best. Maybe they're like, who's doing this to you? And it's like, she's doing it herself. Like, I do like, Molly, you said last week about just, this is a coping mechanism. And she's like, oh no, Vision's not dead. He's right here.
Yeah.
But as the facade breaks down, she's going to hopefully break the spell and stop it all.
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I really like little clues about stuff like Herb cutting through concrete with his hedge trimmers. Like, it's not real concrete. It is a set. And he's like, whoopsie daisy, looks like I tore right through that. Oh, well, like, this is normal.
That was so creepy when he just kept going there for a second.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. I was just going to say, one thing that I think is kind of worth pointing out is that we haven't really seen Wanda do anything this, like, big before with her powers. So
movies.
Yeah, in like the MCU, we haven't seen her use her powers like this before. So, it could just be that she's had like a nervous breakdown and it's just like out of control, or maybe there is some other, element at play here, like it being a powerful magical place, or another magical entity being there, or some like artifact or something, that's fueling it. I don't know.
I do feel like
Go ahead, Molly.
I was thinking about the moment between Wanda and Geraldine. Like, Geraldine touches Wanda, and I feel like that kind of like snaps them out of it for a second, or maybe snaps Geraldine out of it for a second. And then she says the thing about Pietro and how he died.
Yeah, she also touched Wanda when she remembered what her name was in the second episode. Like, she didn't know what her name was, and then she touched Wanda's arm, and then she remembered Geraldine.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, maybe there's something to that.
That like Wanda has all of their memories and identities stuck in her head or something.
Yeah.
I wonder, I think I asked this last week, but I feel like this will just be a running question. Do you think we'll see an Avenger in this series? Like, will another Marvel hero come in? Because like maybe Hawkeye will come in because they have kind of a connection.
Yeah. Well, and Hawkeye has a show that they're doing.
That's true. I'm kind of like Hawkeye, why are you like, you just got your family back? Isn't it time to retire? But
Well,
whatever.
and Hawkeye was also the last person we saw with Scarlet Witch prior to the show. Because at the end of Avengers Endgame, he's like standing there with Scarlet Witch because they're commiserating about how Black Widow and Vision are both gone.
Yeah.
You know, and how that they didn't get brought back and they're like for real dead.
That would be a good way to maybe bring her back, is A, they already have the connection, and B, he's going to be like, I know how you feel. Like, I also lost someone important.
Yeah.
Apparently in the comics too, whenever Scarlet Witch decides to create this like alternate universe, Hawkeye is one of the people that like the reality warp succeeds, but he still keeps his memories, so he like knows what's going on.
Yeah, that was the thing that happened, and I don't know that they ever really explained why.
I thought you were going to say he's one of the only ones that keeps his powers, and I was going to be like, what powers?
Well, yeah. I mean, they have to make him special somehow. Maybe there's like we don't know how Hawkeye survived everyone having their memories taken and warped into this town.
I think they might have retconned this at some point, but for a while there was a thing where Hawkeye was deaf, and so he was kind of like a Daredevil, where like Daredevil's blind, so his other senses are heightened, and like Hawkeye had a similar thing. But I think they might have retconned that, or maybe that was only in like one of the alternate universe Hawkeyes. I can't remember. That was a while ago.
And I think we mentioned Doctor Strange. We talked about him last week. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I could see Doctor Strange getting involved for sure.
Because Wanda's supposed to be in the Multiverse of Madness, I think they said.
Yeah, she's going to be in that show. Although we haven't heard anything about Vision being in that show. So,
well, that they might be trying to hide that. Although I think I could see this being kind of like a farewell for Vision and Paul Bettany and stuff.
Could be. But he is a robot. So as far as characters that could be brought back, it would be pretty easy to explain away him getting brought back, even if it wasn't from Wanda just magicking him back to life.
That's true.
Then again, I mean, who knows? There's a Black Widow show coming up too. Maybe Hawkeye shows up and he's like, I know how you feel. And she's like, it doesn't have to be this way, and brings back both of them. Who knows?
The show? There's a Black Widow show or
movie, rather.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I meant to say movie.
That's really interesting, kind of to talk behind the scenes for a second, is that Black Widow should have been out for like a year at this point, and it still hasn't come out. And I wonder if that's ever going to...
Oh, yeah.
Like, are they going to have a post-credit scene for Black Widow to be like, WandaVision coming next year?
Yeah. I'm just curious to see how that actually... Like, is it like a prequel to everything that happened, or does she somehow come back, or is it like, is she in some other dimension from getting sacrificed for the soul gem? Like,
I figured it was a prequel of some kind, and I mean, I think that ultimately that's probably correct. I don't think that. I think that her movie is probably like what I said. WandaVision could be a little send off for Vision.
Yeah,
Black Widow feels like a sorry we killed you.
Well, and because a lot of the original Avengers cast is kind of done with MCU at this point, because they've been working on MCU projects for so long. So yeah, I could see Scarlett Johansson being like, okay, but this is like, you're finally giving me my movie, but this is like the last one, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Jake's comment is kind of breaking my heart a little bit, but he's basically saying, yeah, Vision will be officially gone after this show, and they might be setting up Wanda as a villain for Doctor Strange too.
Huh. I mean, she felt villain-like at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like, oh, she's pure evil and she's not coming back. Like, I kind of think it's going to be just her. This will be a story about dealing with grief, and she'll get through it. Unfortunately, a whole neighborhood had to go through some wacky adventures for a little while, but
Yeah.
could have been worse. Fingers crossed.
Oh, I don't know. This just occurred to me. One of the things that I thought was really cool in this episode was their house. Like the set for their house just looked really like perfect for that time period. Like
I like that it keeps changing. From
because it didn't even really stick out to me that their house changed between like episode 1 and 2, but the change from episode 2 to 3 was like huge because it went to the sort of like 70s modern kind of look.
Now, this doesn't have to mean anything at all, but it just kind of occurred to me that Geraldine was like, I need some office supplies. Do you still keep them in this room that didn't exist until this week?
Yeah.
Like, that's interesting that, yeah, the house changes, but everyone's memories change with it.
Yeah. Nobody's like, why are we dressed like this? Why is that house different? Like, nobody really thinks about that.
We got a Streamlab. Let's take a few questions, and then we'll end off with some speculation on the future. But Kylie, thanks so much for the Streamlabs donation. My personal guess is the character known as Nightmare is playing with Wanda's head, making her live her actual nightmares. That would also make sense because Nightmare is indeed a Doctor Strange villain in the comics, and this is a Doctor Strange movie prequel. Ashton, tell me about Nightmare.
I mean, that pretty much covered it. He has like he makes people like live their worst nightmare.
That's kind of like what
I would be kind of let down if that was what it was, because it ultimately would be like, and it was all a bad dream all along, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting thought, because like that's what Wanda did to the Avengers in Age of Ultron, like messed with their thoughts. So maybe someone's coming in to get some revenge.
Yeah, could be. I'm mostly just really curious because eventually, like, the bubble is going to go away, right? And so I'm just really curious what's going to happen to Billy and Tommy.
If they're real or not.
Yeah.
I like Lucas Blanco's comment about, because she couldn't make the stork go away, and they're saying it was because one of the kids was doing it. That's cool.
Creating the stork.
Or just like, just like doing, and same with the butterfly. She's like, I didn't do that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. In the comics, Wiccan ends up actually being like, well, he's supposed to eventually become actually like a more powerful magic user than Scarlet Witch was. He ends up being, according to side stories that end up happening where you see a future version of him, he ends up being Sorcerer Supreme after Doctor Strange.
Cool. I just kind of assumed that was all Wanda losing control of her powers because of the pregnancy, but yeah, it didn't occur to me that her magic using baby
maybe
would be doing that stuff.
One kind of messed up thing about the comic story with her kids is that when they get reincarnated after they deal with Mephisto, they never figure out if they reincarnated into kids that already existed and then they just took over those kids' lives, or if they like were reincarnated back in time, because when they first show up they're like 9 years old or something, you know, but like the timeline would line up such that they were like 9 when Mephisto was dealt with. So they never really figure that out. And they actually ask that question in the comic books and they're like, well, we don't really know.
I don't know how this made me laugh so much, but
just like flew and like dropped the little toy plane out of the bubble after her. Take this too.
Is the stork still there? Did it go away?
I don't know.
Depends on which kid created it and whether or not they want it to stick around.
What's the 80s version of a stork?
Isn't it still a stork?
I guess so. Probably got like leg warmers on or something though.
Yeah, a stork with leg warmers and Ray-Bans.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of address, so they showed the helicopter in like the last time on. They showed the helicopter again, mostly I think just to show the sword emblem. But Do you think like Monica parachuted in or something?
I think she might have. And like if the way that it's working is that things that get too close to Wanda are getting altered to fit her ideal, then yeah, maybe the like jet or helicopter or whatever that Monica was flying on got turned into that toy plane or toy helicopter when it hit the bubble, so that it didn't break the illusion or reality warp or whatever you want to call it.
I think we talked about this a little last week that, yeah, if someone is doing this to her, could all of the citizens of the town be in on it? They definitely seem like they're trapped. They don't seem super jazzed to be there. But like, is there still a possibility that they would be trying to just, play the part, quote unquote, and keep her going about her life?
I think that it's like, it seems like unless they're like under duress or Scarlet Witch is under duress, it seems like they just don't realize that they're under this spell. But like when something crazy is going on, like when Mr. Hart was choking and his wife was like freaking out, she kind of started to break out of the magical alterations and was like looking at Wanda and telling her to stop it, you know, which makes you question, was she saying stop it, like stop Mr. Hart choking, or stop it, like stop doing this to everyone?
Yeah. This is, I think, definitely going to be a series that'll be fun to rewatch. and catch stuff like that
once we know what's going on.
Also, Agnes, I went back after last week's stream. I went back and looked, and Agnes does have like the same necklace on every time that she shows up. Even like between the different decades, it's like the same medallion looking thing on her necklace.
Yeah, I hope it's part of Agnes in the next one.
Yeah,
because she seems to kind of know a little bit about what's going on and is just playing along.
So here's a question: do we think there's any significance to the Doctor traveling to Bermuda?
Like the Bermuda Triangle, where time and space.
Yeah, Marvel's owned by Disney now, so maybe he's Merlin from Sword in the Stone.
Nice connection.
Yeah.
I thought immediately about like the one thing I recall from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when we watched it was Tahiti, but that seems like a stretch.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was just like, I'm trying to get out of here.
Yeah, I think that was just like a stereotypical like sitcom-y place to go on vacation.
Got another Streamlab from Major Zuma, and thanks for subbing. Love the Marvel discussion. The whole sequence when Geraldine brings up Ultron and Quicksilver is fantastic. The creepy little moments make the show. I totally agree. Like, I get chills every time something like that happens.
Yeah, when everything kind of like slows down and they like do a slow pan and close up on someone's face, and Wanda at the end there was just that. Her acting is super on point. I loved that. That was probably my favorite part.
Well, and they also do a lot of like little things where like the way that they're filming the show, like the way that they're actually shooting things changes a little bit when they start to break down the illusion, you know, because like outside of that, it's filmed the way that it's framed the way that the shows would have looked. And then when stuff starts breaking down, it actually starts doing like
handheld shots.
Yeah, exactly.
I love when they break the tone of the show because they do a really great job. All the actors, and Elizabeth Olsen especially, but everyone is doing a great job of like, we're in a 50s sitcom now, and now we're in the 60s, and now we're the Brady Bunch, and like they're fitting that tone really, really well that it's so jarring every time it shifts. I love those moments.
What do you hope to see from the next decade?
I wanted to save that for the last thing we talk about real quick, but we'll do one more question because I like Dr. Mr. Meeseeks or Darth Mr. Meeseeks. Will we see Ralph in the final episode or before it?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, it depends. If he's like some character like Mephisto or something, then he'll probably end up being important. I think that maybe he's just like Agnes making up a person for her like persona within the within Westview. If she is actually like Agatha Harkness or something, maybe Ralph is her cat actually, and that's why like because Agatha in the comics has a cat.
Ooh.
And maybe like when she entered Westview, she made him turn into like a person named Ralph or something. I don't know, but he can't talk to anyone because he's actually a cat.
I think that they've mentioned Ralph enough times that he will show up and be important. But I also kind of love the idea of this Agnes person. Just like maybe she's also gone through some terrible trauma and she just understands what is like, yeah, I'd do this too if I could, but she's just like playing along and doing her best to survive. And she's like making her, I love that that's the one constant in like all of these sitcoms. It's like, man, wives making fun of their husbands in a sitcom. Always funny. Like,
Yep.
Never changed.
Yeah. And it's funny because when she was talking to Vision and pointing out the weird stuff about Geraldine, like she mentioned like she doesn't have a family and like she has been talking about Ralph, but no one's seen Ralph.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's why, like, now that I think about it, the cat thing, I'm gonna be stoked if that ends up actually being what it is, because it's like Agatha Harkness in the comics is kind of like a loner, but she does have a cat, and so if she was going into this Westview place, she would know she needs to have a husband, or she's not going to fit in. So why not just turn her cat into some guy and just keep him away from everyone?
That's funny. We got another super Streamlabs from Jane. Thank you. Wanda was snapped and her and Vision were together before Infinity War. Is it possible that she got pregnant right before Infinity War and then she's just having the kids now? In this other reality, they have to really speed things up to make these coincide.
I don't know. I think that it's most likely that she used magic to become pregnant. And so I think I think it's more likely that it was just kind of a spur of the moment. They were talking about kids in her controlled world, and so it just kind of happened because for like on a whim she was like, oh, I would like to have kids, and then she was pregnant, you know. But I mean, that's not to say that it couldn't be the other way. Like maybe she did cast a spell and make herself pregnant before and it's just now noticeable. I don't know.
That would be interesting if that just wasn't part of her reality when she made it. Maybe she didn't even know she was pregnant, but then like all of a sudden, yeah, she's having contractions and stuff. And so she is like, to her in this reality, it's like, oh my God, I just got pregnant, but it's actually been going on for 9 months and she's been in here for 9 months or something.
Yeah, maybe.
I love when Vision is talking to the doctor and he's like, but how could this have happened?
Yeah. And
When a man and a
woman
woman love each other very much.
Well, we are just about at an hour, so let's wrap things up by talking about what we think is going to happen in the 80s and what else we might see in the show. Like, I assume Sword is going to continue to try to infiltrate Westview. And I'm glad. I think they're going to keep showing us a little more and a little more and a little more every week of what's happening on the outside.
Mm-hmm. I hope we get like a Full House 80s kind of deal.
Either Rain Man's Day.
Huh? Oh.
Rain Man's been campaigning for Full House
I mean, there's twins now.
That's true. Oh, so will they just play one character though?
Yeah.
We only see one of them at a time.
I think that it's likely that the
children would be a funny one too.
Yeah.
That
seems, I think from what little we've seen of the 80s in the trailer, like I seem to remember Wanda with like crimped hair and stuff. It gave me kind of Married with Children vibes.
There was a shot of Agnes in like yoga gear with like leg warmers and like big hair and everything. So Yeah, I don't know.
That's true. Full House works well with Olsen.
Yeah.
Didn't even think about that. I like the married with children idea. That I think that's probably what we'll see.
I'm curious to see if we'll see. I am really curious to see if Quicksilver shows up at all.
Or we do Alf and Vision as Alf.
God, yeah, like I really like the idea of Quicksilver. Like they open the door and Quicksilver's there, and obviously like Wanda that'd be an emotional moment for Wanda, but like the crowd would go wild and cheer like Kramer just walked through the door.
Yeah.
Like the juxtaposition of that sounds really interesting.
I kind of think that he won't show up only because even within the confines of this like made up world, she already is like aware that he's dead.
It seems like something she's trying to forget.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it would be interesting if it did happen. I don't know what the implications that would be for whether Vision is going to stay. I think that would pretty much solidify that Vision is actually dead if Quicksilver shows up, because he's definitely actually dead.
That's true. That's a good point. Like, how far can she take all of this?
Yeah. I think that the kids will probably age up to being actually children in the future episodes, just because like babies are just kind of like a prop really in a show like this, and the kids would actually be like characters that they could make more involved.
Yeah, I agree.
What do we think we're gonna see on the outside? But real quick, Hudsonizer, thanks for the Streamlabs. Just says Ralph is totally Mephisto, y'all. Loving the show. This is some Brandon Sanderson level storytelling. Which you've read Brandon Sanderson, right?
Yes.
Ashton, because I have not.
Yeah, Brandon Sanderson's great. I don't know if I would agree that this is Brandon Sanderson writing, but it's good.
So what do we think is going to happen on the outside? Will we see more people, or is it going to be like another, at the very end of the episode, we get another little taste?
I kind of hope that we start the next episode right as they're finding Geraldine. Like
started on the outside.
Yeah, starts on the outside. They go and they find Geraldine, and we get just like a little glimpse of what's happening. You know, just a little bit of what's going on, right? That like it picks up right where it left off.
I was about to say that I don't see that happening because like the show has done such a great job with like the intros every week and how they're different, but that would be a really funny intro. Like have the cold open of be like, Monica, what did you see in there? And like she opens her mouth and we just cut to like the married with children intro.
Yes.
Wandavision, like what's happening? What terrible evils did you witness? And it goes to a sitcom.
Yeah. I mean, I could see maybe the next episode having a longer thing at the end, maybe where it's outside of the show, like the show town, because we haven't seen hardly anything of the 80s episode in the trailers and things. So maybe there's just not that much footage of the 80s like model, because maybe more of the episode actually takes place outside of the outside of Westview.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm really enjoying not having any idea what's going on.
I'm kind of curious if like what Sword is doing outside of the bubble, because clearly they're all like there because they swarmed onto on Geraldine's position as soon as she left the bubble.
Real quick, it's Sentient Weapons something Research Division.
Sentient Weapons Observation and Response Department, I think.
Okay.
So like, are they just there monitoring it and making sure that people don't wander in, or are they actually like are they keeping the bubble from expanding? You know, like what are they there for exactly?
I figure they're trying to get to Wanda and stop what she's doing.
Yeah.
It's I really like the idea of the beekeeper dude. I don't know why he was dressed like a beekeeper, although okay, that does kind of make sense. If he were to have come in through the sewer, they were like, all right, we can't go straight into the bubble. But if we go into the sewer, walk through, and come up, maybe that'll work. And so this dude in a hazmat suit comes up, like you suggested, and Wanda just interprets that as a beekeeper.
Yeah.
Maybe
Or like
they
if he's
tried-
wearing. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say they tried coming in on a helicopter, and that turned into a toy. So they were like, "Let's go up from the sewers."
I'm
Yeah,
imagining
could be.
like a Wile E. Coyote scenario where like Monica's in this helicopter and then she's like it turns into a toy that she's just sitting on top of, and
Yeah.
she looks at the camera and then falls.
Yeah. Or it like freezes there. You're probably wondering how I got in this situation.
Yeah.
No, like I think that's a good point. Like maybe that was their like next attempt at infiltrating it. I could also see maybe if he was wearing like gear that was supposed to protect him from the magic, that getting basically translated into like a beekeeper uniform. But yeah, I mean, it's also curious, or it's interesting to think about what links they'll go to stop her, or like, you know, or I'm assuming that they're planning on like taking her into custody as soon as the spell ends because she's clearly dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's not going to work because, you know, it's probably going to just fail. I mean, maybe they'll take her into custody and then she breaks out later or something. But like maybe they are sending people in there to try to like shoot her with a tranquilizer gun or something, you know, like who knows?
Well, we'll find out next week on WandaVision.
Although Geraldine didn't do anything quite so aggressive as that, and she was a sword operative, so I doubt that they're doing that sort of thing yet. Anyway,
they might not have known that you like lose who you are when you get in.
Yeah, could be.
So now she can be like, well, that didn't work.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She's like loaded up with trank guns, and they're like, why didn't you use anything?
Like they got turned into candy canes.
Yeah, I was too busy getting a promotion at my fake job.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, did that really happen? So I think we can wrap up there. That's a good place to stop. So Ashton, why don't you plug your Twitch and your Twitter and
yeah, so my handle on Twitch and on Twitter is Yeti Boatman, and I am just kind of starting streaming now. So on Mondays I have a stream with Blunderdome and Templin Institute where we're playing Vermintide 2. And I also am gonna probably start a streaming schedule here pretty soon with at least 1 or 2 days a week that I stream regularly. So yeah.
Molly,
Yes.
you can plug your various things as well.
I know there's some Schmodown fans in the chat. They're doing the free agency tonight in less than an hour. You can check me out on A Certain Point of View on YouTube, and then me and Jill have our new show called Happy Hour with Jill and Molly. The next one of those will be February 6th, and that one's going to be super fun because we're going to be playing the Newlywed Game with some other couples. So.
And if you're here, I assume you already know about our YouTube channel, Star Wars Explained, but we will be streaming back here, or I will be streaming Monday with Molly probably running in and out to mess with me while I build Lego sets. I'm streaming Wednesdays, doing some gaming stuff, and we'll be back next Friday to do this again. And yeah, also the Schmodown free agency special is happening in about an hour, and I will be in that, announcing which faction I'll be a part of. I don't think there's any surprises there for me, but there will be for other people.
Alex.
I mean, I think people know what to expect from me.
Will he be in it? Will he not be in it? And you have to tune in to see.
The question is, when is Hilo getting his own channel?
He has an Instagram.
I don't use it enough, but he makes quite a few appearances.
That's true. He does seem to think that the Lego streams are about him sometimes.
He does. So that'll wrap it up for us today. Thank you all so much for hanging out. And thank you so much to everyone who was following and subscribing. I wish that the StreamYard would let me pull that out like I can with regular comments, but I know people were following and subbing. So thank you for that. Thank you for your support for the new show. But we'll wrap it up and we'll see you guys next time.